Good evening, everyone. I hope everybody has returned your All India mock test number 4. So let's see the question and we'll see the answers also. The first question is an animal with same generic name, a specific name, and a subspecific name. We have to find out. So before going, we have to understand, we have to know the scientific name of man, gorilla, rabbit, and elephant. So we already know the scientific name is going to be Homo sapiens, right? And for gorilla, the scientific name is going to be, or we can say the genus name is also gorilla, and the species name is also gorilla, and the subspecies name is also going to be gorilla. Okay, so the answer is going to be option B. But let's anyway see the scientific name of a rabbit. Okay, yes. So it is going to be Oryctolagus Unicolus domesticus. Yes. So it is going to be Oryctolagus lagus. Just a minute. Let me just write it again. Oryctolagus Unicolus domesticus. Okay. So Oryctolagus Unicolus domesticus. And we know for elephant, the scientific name varies from the African elephant and the Asian elephant. So I'm going to write the Asian elephant, which is going to be Elephas maximus. Elephas maximus. Okay, yes. So genus, species, subspecies, everything is going to be same in the gorilla. So the animal is going to be gorilla. So the answer to this question is option B. Yes. So we move on to the second question. Which of the following group of animal belong to the same phylum? Okay, yes, let's see. Earthworm belongs to the phylum, which is going to be Annelida, right? Yes. So if we have to see the pinworms and the tapeworms and tapeworms are belonging to Aschelminthus. So this is Annelids and this is going to be Aschelminthus. Both of them are going to be Aschelminthus. So they are all different phylum. So this cannot be the option. Prawns, scorpions, and locust. Everything is going to be arthropods. So they belong to phylum arthropods. So arthropods usually have classes. So in that there are going to be all these things. So this is a correct statement. Sponges belongs to, we can say it's going to be phylum Porifera. Porifera, the animals which belongs to Porifera always are going to be the pore-bearing animals. Sea anemone belongs to the phylum which is called as Cnidaria or Coelenterata. So Cnidaria is the one which usually have the stinging cells, which is cnidoblasts. So we used to call them as Cnidaria. And they are otherwise called as coelenterates. Now the name is called as Cnidaria. Previously it was called coelenterates because of the gastrovascular system, right? Yes. And starfishes belonging to Echinodermata. So they are all different phylums. And malarial parasites are different. Amoebas are prokaryotes, and mosquitoes are going to be the carriers, right? Or we can say they are belonging to the insect families, arthropods. So all are going to be different phylums. So we cannot choose the answer. So what's going to be the correct answer? Prawns, scorpions, and locusts. Everything, all these three things are going to be belonging to the Arthropoda phylum. Okay, the next question. Match the list 1 with the list 2. Okay, yes. The first is Cyanophyta. The second is given as Chlorophyta, and then Phaeophyta, and then Rhodophyta. So first is Cyanophyta, which means Cyanophyceae, all the cyanobacteria. So these kind of bacteria usually have the reserve food material as amylopectins. So we can mark A is going to be 2. So you can see three options that A is going to be 2. Okay, let's see Chlorophyta. Okay, so Chlorophyta are usually going to have the reserve food material stored in the form of starch. Yes, so B is going to be 4th. So second option and third option has both together. But we have to find out which one is going to be the correct one. Yes, very important thing about Chlorophyceae, you have to remember they have a pigment which is going to be chlorophyll A and B. And you have to remember what are the organisms which comes under Chlorophyta. You can remember Spirogyra, you can remember Chara, Eulotrix, all these things are going to be examples of Chlorophyta. And Phaeophyta, it's actually Phaeophyta or Phaeophyceae. They are nothing but brown algae, right? Yes. Phaeophyceae has the pigment, so they are going to be a brown color algae, we can say. So brown color usually has, they also have chlorophyll, but the chlorophyll is going to be A and C. And if you remember, if you're forgetting things, you can remember like this. So brown color algae they are going to be. So if you mix yellow color and orange color, it's going to give you brown color. So xanthophylls are going to be giving you yellow color, and then keratins are going to give you orange color. So both together make up a brown color. So Phaeophyceae, we can say an example is going to be laminaria. So if you remember laminaria, then the reserve food material is going to be laminarage. Okay, yes. And then Rhodophyceae, please remember R and you remember red algae. So R and R, okay. So this is going to be a red algae. The red algae has a reserve food material stored in the form of Floridian starch. And you have to remember Floridian structure is almost similar to that of amylopectins and glycogens. Okay. And this red algae has a pigment of, we can say it's going to have phycoerythrins. Phycoerythrins, very important. Phycoerythrins and then phycobilins. Okay, yes. Okay. So what might be the answer for this question? We can say, so Cyanophyta is going to be option 2, A is 2, B is going to be 4, and C is going to be 5, and D is going to be 3. So answer for this question is option B. Okay, yes. Okay. Next, we move on to the next question. Which of the following is a true fruit? First, we have to understand what is a true fruit. True fruit is nothing but if any fruit, usually if we are talking about a fruit and a seed, we know that ovary is the one which gives rise to what? Fruits. So we'll write ovary gives fruit. And the ovule. Ovule gives what? Yes. The ovule usually gives seed. Ovule gives seed. And then if we have to talk about this one clearly, so which one of them are going to be true fruit? First, we have to understand what is a true fruit and a false fruit. True fruit means if any fruit which comes only from the ovary, then that fruit is called as true fruit. If they are coming out, apart from the ovary, they are coming, if the fruit develops from an ovary and the other floral parts, then they are going to be false. So apple is a false fruit, cashew nut is a false fruit, pear is a false fruit, but coconut is the true fruit. Okay, which means they develop only from the ovary. So the correct answer for this question is going to be option D. Okay, yes. Okay, the next question, the path of water from soil up to secondary xylem is which of these? Okay, from the soil, the water has to reach the secondary xylem. First, it enters the soil, and then from the soil, it reaches the elongation region of the root, and then maturation region, and then it reaches the cortex, and then it reaches the endodermis, and then it reaches the pericycle, and then the protoxylem. Protoxylem is going to be the smallest one, and metaxylem is going to be the largest xylem, right? So the answer is very simple, which is option A. The next question, which of the following algae are useful for human consumption, which means the edible ones they are talking about? Okay, yes. So we'll see this one. So first thing what you have to remember, porphyra. Porphyra are usually going to be edible. So there might be an answer of C and D. Let's see which is going to be the correct answer. Porphyra, suppose if I have to talk about porphyra, which means this one. So this porphyra is going to be a marine. They usually red algae are going to be marine, right? Yes, so they are marine red algae. So porphyra is going to be a marine red algae, and they are edible seaweed, we can say. They are edible seaweed. And usually what they will do is, this porphyra is wrapped along with the rice and fishes. Suppose if we are talking about the Japanese foods like sushi or Korean foods, they used to wrap this porphyra along with the rice, fishes, and all these things. What about this rhodymania? Okay, this rhodymania is also going to be a red algae. This is also going to be a rhodophyceae. They are also red algae. It can be eaten raw or it can also be eaten when after cooked. Okay, so whatever product you get from this rhodymania, these products are used for thickening foods. So they are used for thickening foods, like to make ice creams and all those things, right? Yes. So Spirogyra is not at all edible, so we cannot choose this option number C. Okay, but so the answer for this question is option D. Okay, yes. So the next question, which of the following organelle is directly connected to the outer membrane of the nucleus? So they are talking about which organ is connected to the membranes of the nucleus, that too specifically the outer membrane. Suppose if we are talking about the structure of nucleus, and then we will understand this. Okay, so I'm just going to draw a nucleus over here. Okay, so there's a cell, and inside the cell there's going to be a nucleus, and the nucleus has a membrane. So this membrane is going to be the nuclear membrane, and in this you're going to see a kind of organelle which actually attaches to it, and this is going to be endoplasmic reticulum. So the question is, which of the following organelle is directly connected to the outer membrane of the nucleus in the eukaryotic cells? So the answer for this question is going to be option D. Okay, yes. So the next question is, they have given the diagrams of 3 flowers and we have to find out which flower it's going to be. Okay, choose the correct combination. So first you have to see this is going to be this thalamus, and you can see this is going to be the gynoecium. Gynoecium is the female reproductive part. The tip portion is called stigma, and this slender portion is called style, and this is going to be the ovary, right? Yes. And then this is going to be the androecium, which is going to be the male reproductive part. And these are going to be petals. So many petals together make up corolla. And this is going to be sepals, and sepals make up calyx. And this is going to be thalamus. And you can see the ovary is actually present above all the floral part. Below the ovary only you can see this androecium arising, petals arising, sepals arising. So the ovary is going to be superior. The superior ovary you will always see in hypogynous flowers. And when we see this one, you can see this is going to be the thalamus. And in this thalamus, at the rim or at the end of the thalamus, you're going to see the petals are attached, the sepals are attached, and the androecium is attached. And whereas this gynoecium, where the ovary is half inferior. Yes, the ovary is not above, but they are covered by this one, so they are half inferior. Such kind of half inferior situation you will see in perigynous. And the next one is going to be epigynous. Epi means something which is above. So all the floral holes or the petals or sepals, androecium, and all these things are present above, whereas the ovule is enclosed inside the thalamus. So this kind of flowers are called as epigynous. So what's the A going to be? Hypogynous, B is perigynous, C is epigynous. So what would be the answer for this question? The answer, let's just finish this one. Just give me 2 minutes. Let's see the next questions. Okay. So what might be the answer for this question? The answer would be hypogynous, perigynous, and epigynous. So A is 1, B is 2, and C is 3. So option is A, right? Yes. The next question, the sequence of development during formation of embryo sac, okay, is given here. So we have to understand how an embryo sac is actually formed. Okay, let's write this. So there's going to be archisporium, so which is a female reproductive part, and inside archisporium there's going to be megaspore mother cell. So this is going to be a megaspore mother cell. Even microspore mother cell we will write MMC, but please remember mega means which is larger. Usually the female gametes are going to be larger. So megaspore mother cell is going to be diploid. and this diploid undergoes meiosis. It undergoes meiosis to form 4 haploid sets. So this is haploid, this is haploid, this is haploid, and this is going to be megaspore tetrads. We used to call tetrads, and out of this only one is going to be functional. So we will write only one megaspore, and this megaspore develops into an embryo sac. So we have to find out, first it is archisporium, second is megaspore mother cell, which is MMC, which is diploid. They undergo meiosis to form megaspore, and megaspore finally develops into an embryo sac. So what's the answer for this question? We can say the answer is going to be option D. Okay, yes. We'll move on to the next question. So in a fertilized ovule, the 2N, 2N and 3N conditions occurs respectively in which of these things? Very simple question. So you have to remember N. So N means you have to remember sperm and egg are going to be N. So here it is ovule given, fertilized. So egg is going to be the N. If you know this one answer, you can literally answer this question. Okay. So egg is going to be N and nucleus are going to be 2N. The nucleus are the one which give rise to the megaspore mother cells, right? Yes. And then the endosperm and an angiosperm is going to be triploid in nature. So you have to remember they are triploid. So the answer is very simple, option B. Competitions for light, nutrients and space is most severe between which of these things? Okay. Suppose if there's going to be a competition between two people, suppose there's one trophy and people are competing for that one trophy, right? Yes, which means there is a need for that one trophy by two people. The same way, if anybody wants light, if animals want light, if they want nutrients, if they want the same space, so closely related animals only wanted that. And specifically, if they are living in the same area, they want the same kind of food, they want the same kind of habitat, they want the same kind of light. Then only the competition arises. So closely related organism living in the same habitat is going to be the answer. So answer is going to be option B. Yes. Okay. The next question, from a megasporocyte to egg cell, what process are required? Very important question. So we can say, how is this process going to take place? First, I already told you, nucleus are the one which give, or we can say the megaspore mother cell. I'm talking about megaspore mother cell. Okay, megaspore mother cell. I'm writing MC, and this megaspore mother cell actually develops from the nucleus. They actually develops from the nucleus. Nucleus are the one which gives nourishments. And megaspore mother cell is going to be diploid. So it will undergo meiosis. As it undergoes meiosis, they form what? Megaspores. So again, it's going to be megaspore tetrad, which means 4 haploid sets are formed. And this megaspore tetrad give rise to megaspores. So only one megaspore, which is going to be haploid. Yes. And very importantly, one becomes functional and all the 3 will be degenerated. Yes, very important. This megaspore, which is formed, right, they will undergo 3 mitotic division. Very importantly, you have to remember the mitotic division will take place, but without cytoplasm dividing. The cytoplasm will not divide, but the mitotic division will take place. So we know that for one mitotic division, there is going to be 2 nuclei. Okay. Suppose for 2 of them, they just get doubled, right? So 4 nuclei. And the 3 mitotic division, they just get doubled. So 4 plus 4 becomes 8 nuclei. So 2 plus 2, 4. 4 plus 4, 8. So they are going to have 8 nuclear cell. They're going to have 8 nuclei in the megaspore. So you have to remember 8 nucleus are now present in the megaspore. And now this 8 nucleus get organized in an egg apparatus. Egg apparatus. And what does this egg apparatus actually has? An egg apparatus usually has 3 synergids and then 2 synergids and then 3 antipodals and then 1 egg and then 1 central cell. So totally how many cells are present? 5, 6 and 7. So there are going to be 7 cells megaspore and there are going to be 8 nuclei. Okay, yes. Now what happened to the egg apparatus? Now this egg apparatus gets changed into an embryo sac. Okay, let me repeat it. You have to remember, nucellus are the one which give rise to megaspore mother cell, which is diploid, and the diploid undergo meiosis to form megaspore tetrads. And the megaspore tetrads, three becomes they degenerates and one becomes functional, and that one megaspore will undergo three mitotic division without undergoing any kind of cytoplasmic division. And ultimately, they form 8 nucleus in a megaspore. And this 8 nucleus get organized in an egg apparatus. And an egg apparatus has 2 synergids, 3 antipodals, 1 egg and 1 central nucleus. And ultimately, they are going to form embryo sac. So what is happening here? First is going to be meiosis. Megaspore mother cell undergoes meiosis followed by mitosis. So 3 mitotic division. So meiosis followed by mitosis. So what's the answer going to be? The answer is going to be option A. Okay, yes. Okay, let's see the next option. Question, which of the following pairs is not correctly matched? Okay, let's see this. The production of sulfur dioxide. Yes, sulfur dioxide is the one which mainly useful in burning of coals. Suppose if you're talking about the ozone depletion, the main problem in ozone depletion is due to the release of chlorofluorocarbons, the ozone layer is getting depleted. And eutrophication, what exactly happened? There's going to be the aquatic body. It's going to be aquatic, AQUATIC. Okay, it's going to be aquatic body. So there's more amount of the nutrients like nitrogen as well as phosphorus. This is also going to be a correct statement. But what's the question given here? Which one of the following pair is not correctly matched? That's going to be an important one. So suppose if we are talking about the BOD, first you have to understand BOD, biological oxygen demand. Okay, very importantly, any human being or any living organism, they want dissolved oxygen. So they want dissolved oxygen. What is BOD? There's going to be biological oxygen demand. So when does the oxygen becomes less? Suppose there's going to be sewage which mixes in the pond. So now the pond is actually polluted. Now what exactly happened? Many aerobic bacteria will come and they break this matters, right? Yes. So aerobic bacteria utilize lot of oxygen. So if they utilize lot of oxygen, they can break large molecules into small molecules. Since all the bacteria utilizing oxygen, now what exactly happened? There's a deficiency of oxygen. So oxygen becomes less. So all the other organisms which are living in water wants oxygen. So there's going to be biological oxygen demand. So demand increases, right? Yes. Whereas the oxygen decreases. The amount of oxygen decreases, but the demand increases. Biological oxygen demand increases when there's going to be pollution. So you have to remember the BOD increases when there's going to be pollution. The BOD value decreases when they are free from pollution or when they are pollution free. Pollution free. Okay, yes. So now we see this one. A decrease in BOD of pond water. Suppose if the BOD decreases, which means they are not without any kind of pollution. Will there be increase of temperature? No. Temperature has nothing to do with it. So this is going to be a wrong statement. So we can say this is a wrong statement. Okay, yes. So we'll see the next question. The electrostatic precipitator is used for removing particulate matter. Yes, we were studying about it. So electrostatic precipitator is mainly used to remove all kinds of dust particles or exhaust from the thermal power plants. From the exhaust of the thermal power plants. So answer is going to be option A. Yes, okay. Keystone species, very important. What's a keystone species going to be? Keystone species are the one which defines the ecosystem. They are the one which renders the characteristics to the ecosystem. For example, suppose if we are talking about the ocean, okay, starch is the one which defines the entire oceans. Or we can say they are the one which defines the characteristics of the ocean. So keystone, key is something not very specific and very crucial ones. So keystone species in an ecosystems are those which are present in maximum number. No, that is wrong. That are more frequent. Whichever is more, that we will not call keystone species. We can say which attains large biomass. No, we will not call that also. Or contributing to ecosystem property. Yes, the one which defines the entire ecosystem characteristics are going to be keystones once. Okay, next question is, if the gene encoding the TRP repressor is mutated such that it can no longer bind tryptophan, will transcription of the TRP operon occurs or not? That's going to be the question. Okay, let's understand this question. Okay, listen. So we'll just draw all the structure of it. First, what you have to remember is the TRP operon is going to be a repressor operon. Please don't confuse with the lac operon. Okay, yes. So lac operon, we know it's an inducible operon. Now we are talking about tryptophan operon. So TRP operon. So TRP operon is usually a repressor operon. It's not an inducer one, it's a repressor ones. Okay. Usually we have to understand that in a normal situation the operator is always on. Okay. When it is needed, they will just switch off. Okay. Let's draw the structure of the entire gene. Okay. Yes. So we will draw the regulatory genes also. We will draw the structural genes also. Okay. Yes. So this is going to be the regulatory gene. P is going to be the promoter, and R is going to be the repressor gene, and P again is going to be a promoter, and O is going to be the operator, and then there are going to be structural. So this is going to be the structural gene. So there are 5 structural genes. There are 5 structural genes, which is going to be TRP A, and then there's going to be TRP B, and then there's going to be TRP C, and then there's going to be TRP D, and then there's going to be TRP E. So there are 5 structural genes. Let's understand this. Okay, it's in a normal scenario. We are talking about when they are going to be on. Okay, so if promoters are the one where the RNA polymerase actually comes and binds to it, right? Yes. So here there is going to be RNA polymerase which comes and bind. Here also the RNA polymerase comes and bind. Okay, the RNA polymerase comes and binds here, and now the transcription begins, which means the synthesis of mRNA begins. Now, as this proceeds on, here what exactly happened? The repressor also produces, the repressor gene also produces repressor mRNA. So they also produces repressor mRNA, which means transcription is going to take place. And finally, they're going to produce repressor protein. Very important. So this is a repressor protein, and this repressor is going to be apoenzyme. We already know what is apoenzyme, what is holoenzyme. Let's talk about a holoenzyme. So holoenzymes are the one which are functional enzymes, which means they are made up of apoenzyme plus any kind of proteins, non-protein part, or we can say cofactors. This is going to be the functional, but this apoenzyme is non-functional. So if they are non-functional, what would happen is they would not be able to bind to the operator. If they are not binding to the operator, they would not be able to bind to the operator. Now what exactly happened? This RNA polymerase comes and bind to the promoter, and they will stimulate the transcription. Okay, and ultimately they will undergo transcription of all these genes. And now what happened to the genes? All these genes, the structural genes begin to produce mRNA of every gene. And finally, they will produce a protein called tryptophan synthetases. Tryptophan synthetases. Okay, yes. And tryptophan synthase is the one which synthesizes tryptophan, which is an amino acid. And this amino acid is responsible for growth. Okay, yes. Now, suppose let's take a scenario. The tryptophan has to be only 25. It's just a case, okay? Tryptophan. Suppose if there's going to be one extra tryptophan is present. And now what exactly happens is the extra one tryptophan, right? The extra one tryptophan will go and bind to the repressor. And now what exactly happened? The repressor as well as the tryptophan has bound with each other. Now they are not apoenzyme. They are going to be holoenzyme, which means they are functional. And as they become functional, what exactly happened? They go and bind to the operator regions. Let's draw it once again. So what exactly would have happened in the next scenario? So what exactly will happen? So there's going to be promoters, there's going to be promoter, and then there's going to be repressor, and then there's going to be promoter and then operator, and all the genes are actually present here. Okay, so what exactly happens? This repressor is going to be activated, and as they are activated, they go and bind to the operator region. This repressor goes and binds to the operator regions. And this RNA polymerase comes and bind, and the transcription takes place. RNA polymerase comes and bind. As they try to move, but since there's going to be a blockage, when it is needed, it will off because tryptophan is extra. I don't want any more tryptophan to be produced. Only an appropriate amount is necessary. So that one extra one is going to bind to the repressor, and they will prevent the synthesis of tryptophan synthesis, and ultimately no production of tryptophan will take place. Okay, yes. Now let's go to the question and we will understand that. Okay, yes. Okay, listen. So, if the gene encoding the TRIP repressor, which means we are talking about the gene, repressor gene, and if the repressor gene is mutated, which means it doesn't work. So, what exactly happened? The repressor will not be produced. If a repressor is not produced, the repressor will not be able to bind to the tryptophan. If repressor and tryptophan are not able to bind with each other, they would not be able to go and bind to the operator. If they're not going to bind to the operator, the transcription can take place because there is no blockage. So transcription can take place, yes, because strip operons binds only to the TRIP. So answer is option A. Okay, the next question. What is the best pH of soil for cultivation of plants? The best pH for cultivation of plants is 6.5 to 7.5. Very important. Okay, yes. So the next question is telomerases. We already know what is a telomere. Yes, telomere is the area in the chromosomal endings. Suppose let's talk about this is going to be the chromosome, and at the end there's going to be telomeres. So what happens is when we age, this telomeres begins to get shortened up. Then what's the role of this telomerase? Telomerase is going to be a ribonucleoprotein. Yes, they are ribonucleoprotein. They are the one which prevents the shortening of the telomeres during DNA replication. When a replication takes place, they would not let the telomeres to get shortened up. And the answer for this question is telomerase is what type of enzyme? It's a ribonucleoprotein enzyme. Okay, yes. The mass of living matter in a trophic level in an area at any time. It's a very important question. Question number 109. Okay, it's just the definition. So the answer for this question is going to be option A. It's a standing crop. How much is the weight or the total mass of the living matter that is present in any tropical area at any time is going to be standing crop. The next is going to be triticale. Okay, triticale is going to be a hybrid. It is an intergenic hybrid. So how can we say that? It is actually between wheat and rye, we can say. So the wheat is going to be tritica. Okay, let me write that. Okay, let me write. It's going to be tritica. So triticum. So triticum is going to be the wheat. It is going to be the wheat. And then rye. If we have to talk about rye is going to be the CK. Okay, yes. When you do intergenic crossing between these two, ultimately they have taken triti from this wheat and then kale from the rye. So it becomes triticale. So it is an intergenic hybrid between a wheat and a rye. So the answer for this question is option C. Very simple. Okay, yes. The next question. Fishes die by sewage. Okay, there's a pond and there are a lot of sewages which has come. Many fishes usually die. Why? Is it because of the bad smell? No, it's a wrong statement. Is it because they replaces the food material of the fishes? No, it's not going to be the same case. What exactly happened? I told you previously. If sewage is more, the biological oxygen demand is going to be more because all the aerobic bacteria takes it. So the oxygen is very less. So even the fishes wants that oxygen. So what the fishes, not only one fishes, many fishes are there. So each of the fishes will compete for the available oxygen. So it increases the oxygen competition among the fishes. So that's going to take place here. That's why fishes die. Only fishes which competes and wins the competition can live over there. The one which cannot win, they will die. right? Yes. So the next is choose the correct option. They have given the structure of the flagella and the internal structure. So what is A, B, and C and D? Okay. A is of course going to be the plasma membrane, right? Yes. And B is going to be the interdoublet ring. You can see over here. This is going to be the interdoublet rings. This is going to be the interdoublet rings. And this C is going to be what? This microtubule. This is a microtubule and this is a microtubule. And this is going to be the radial spokes. This is going to be the radial spokes. So the answer for this question is going to be option A. Okay, yes. Next, we'll move on to the next question. An ecosystem that can easily get damaged but can recover after some time if damaging effect stops will be having what are the characteristics. Okay, first we understand this. Okay, suppose if we are talking about stability. Okay, when will the stability of an ecosystem will be there? Suppose if we are talking about the stability, when the species diversity, when there are a lot of birds, when there are a lot of animals, everything is present. If the species diversity is more, and then ultimately if there's going to be species diversity, it is mainly depends on the complexity of the food and all these things. So the complexity of the food also is going to be more because many animals, birds are present, so the food complexity is also going to increase. But if many species are present, then the ecosystem is going to be stable because all the animals, all the birds are relying on each other, right? It's going to be like a food web. So if there's species diversity, there's going to be stability. But if an ecosystem is damaged, what exactly happens? Species diversity becomes less. So if a species diversity becomes less, what exactly happens? Then the stability becomes less, or there's going to be low stability. Okay, yes, we know now there's going to be low stability. So the answer can be A or C. Let's see which is going to be the correct answer. And if we have to talk about even nutrient cycling, okay, nutrient cycling also plays an important role. And what is, they said that but can recover. Recover means resiliences, which means they have a greater method of recovery. Suppose there's going to be deforestation. So ultimately what happens, we can go and cultivate many plants. We human beings can recover it very quickly by planting them, right? Yes. So that is going to be low stability. If there's no ecosystem is damaged, which means species diversity is less, so low stability and high resilience. Okay, yes. So answer is going to be option A. Okay, the next question. The mode of catching insects in Drosera plants. Drosera plants are actually going to be a purplish or we can say pinkish in color. Okay, so they will trap the insects inside it. Why do they trap it? Because they have a gland-like structure, and in that they have a very sensitive hairs present, and they are going to secrete a sweetish substances, and they're going to be kind of sticky and viscous, and they are very shiny in nature, so that the insects gets attracted to it, and that is how a Drosera plants catch the insects. So answer is going to be option A. Okay, the next question, quantosomes. Quantosomes are the units, right? Yes, or we can say there are pigments which absorbs light at a specific wavelength, which are mainly responsible for photosynthesis. Where will the photosynthesis take place? Of course, it will take place in the chloroplast. So answer is going to be option A, right? Yes. Okay. What's the minimum number of cell membranes that a water molecule must go through in getting from the soil into the xylem vessel? Okay. Yes. Suppose if we have to talk about that, we already know about the apoplast pathway and the symplast pathway, right? Yes. So what exactly happened? They have to cross the endodermis. If they have to cross the endodermis, they have to cross something called as Casparian strip, or we can say endodermis, and this endodermis has Casparian strip, which is made up of suberins. Yes. So what exactly happens? There is going to be outer endodermis. So this is outer endodermis, and then there's going to be inner endodermis. So in order to reach the xylem vessel, they have to reach from the outer endodermis, which is one membrane, and then inner endodermis, which is the second. So there are going to be two membranes. So answer is going to be option C. Okay, so we can use option C. The next one, which of the following statement regarding photorespiration are true? Okay, First, we have to understand what is photorespiration. We already know photorespiration is a waste process, because in photorespiration, what exactly happens is RUBP, RUBP combines with oxygen in the presence of rubisco. So now rubisco is going to behave like oxygenase. So what they will do, they will make 2-phosphoglycolate. They make a 2-phosphoglycolate and 3-PGA glycolate, and then 3-phosphoglycerate. Okay, and this will enter into the C3 pathway. Okay, but this will enter into the photorespiration. Photorespiration usually takes place in 3 organelles like chloroplasts, peroxisomes, and mitochondria. Yes, so in this process, what exactly happens? So since the carbon dioxide concentration is going to be less, so in C3 we already know RUBP usually combines with carbon dioxide, which is a good process where you're getting ATP molecules, all these things. But if carbon dioxide concentration becomes less, then RUBP can combine with oxygen, and now the rubisco enzyme is going to behave like a oxygenase. Previously, it is going to behave, rubisco is going to behave like carboxylase. And now what exactly happened? A lot of carbon dioxide is released in this process, and there is no ATP, no NADPH. So if this thing is happening where oxygen has been utilized and carbon dioxide is released, which is a wasteful process. So it is a very expensive process where you're going to use all the oxygen. So photorespiration is metabolically an expensive process. Yes, photorespiration is avoided. When this will be avoided, when RUBP is going to combine with oxygen, when carbon dioxide is going to be less, only RUBP combines with oxygen. So this is also correct. And photorespiration results in a loss of usable carbon dioxide. Yes. So finally, what exactly happened? Many carbon dioxide will be gone. So all of these things are going to be correct. Okay. Yes. So let's see the next one. A free living nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria, which can also form symbiotic association with water fern. The question you have to remember is symbiotic association means, please don't go and click Nostoc immediately. They have asked fern azola. Okay, so in fern azola, which one is going to be present? First, the stoliphotrix. What is the stoliphotrix? It's going to be a chlorophyceae, which means they are green algae. They are chlorophyceae. Okay, and what is this chlorella? You might be seeing this chlorella in animals also. They are in symbiotic association with animals. They are also green algae. They would be combining with hydra also. Yes, they will also be in symbiotic association. Nostoc is usually present in bryophytes like liverworts, all these things. This would be in symbiotic association. Anathena is the one which actually been in symbiotic association with azola, okay, which is a fern. And when they ask bryophytes like liverworts and hornworts, all these things, then you have to answer Nosta. So what might be the answer for this question? The answer is going to be option D. Okay, yes. The next question, which of the following statement correctly characterizes the changes in the calcium carbonate clay and biomass during the long-term aging? Suppose the soil is present for many, many long years. What would have happened? The calcium begins to deplete, right? The calcium begins to become less. So calcium becomes less. As calcium is going to be less, so which means the stones, everything which is present over being less, then the some amount of clay is going to increase and the biomass is going to increase. But even if it also stays for a long period of time, even the clay and even the biomass will also decrease. So our answer is very simple. It's going to be option A. Okay. The next question. Krebs cycle occurs in which of these cases? Yes, we know glycolysis takes place in cytoplasm. Krebs cycle takes place in the matrix of the mitochondria. So we can say it's going to be option A. The most abundant organic compound on earth. Okay, it's going to be cellulosis. Okay, yes. The next question. An inhibitor, suppose there's going to be succinate. Where do you see succinate? You will see succinate in the Krebs cycle. So succinate is the one which gives rise to fumarate. Okay, suppose if an inhibitor is added and succinate is present, but what exactly happened? The enzyme which catalyzes the formation of which substance has been blocked. So there's going to be one enzyme which would convert succinate into fumarate. So if there's no enzyme and if there's going to be inhibition, succinate cannot be converted into fumarates. So answer is option B. Okay, the next question, to avoid excessive loss of water, or we can say it's going to be transpiration. Okay, so what exactly happens? The stomata actually closes. If a stomata has to close, there has to be some release of some hormones. So that is going to be abscisic acid. So answer is going to be option C. Okay, the next question, the amount of DNA in a mammalian cell in early prophase is 1. First, we will understand this, what happens in a cell cycle. So in an interphase, we know there's going to be G1 phase, there's going to be S phase, G2 phase, and M phase. M phase has prophase, we know prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and then telophase. Okay, yes. So in G1 phase, the amount of DNA is less, but in S phase, the amount of DNA increases. Here, the amount of DNA stays the same. In mitosis also, it remains the same. Now, let's see this one. The amount of DNA in a mammalian cell in early prophase is 1. Okay, which means the 2C content is going to be X. The amount of DNA content is X. What is the amount of DNA in the same cell in anaphase 1? Whether it is prophase or metaphase or anaphase or telophase, the amount of DNA is going to remain the same. So answer is going to be option C. Okay, yes, so it is option C. The next question, the major reason that glycolysis is not an energy producing reaction, because if you see in glycolysis, there won't be totally more amount of ATPs produced in glycolysis. There's going to be only 2 ATPs are produced. Okay, yes. So we can say a pyruvate is more reduced. So how do we say a pyruvate is more reduced? We know that glucose is a 6-carbon molecule. A 6-carbon molecule is broken down into 2 molecules of pyruvate, because pyruvate is a 3-carbon. So 1 molecule of pyruvate plus another molecule of pyruvate. So they are actually reduced. When you compare it with the carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide, pyruvate is very much reduced. But even though they are reduced, they are ultimately producing 2 molecules of ATP. It still contains much of the energy from the glucose, right? When you compare it with the glucose, they have a little bit more of energy. So answer is going to be B. Okay, the next question. All the following statements are true with regard to Km value. First, we have to understand what is this Km value. Km is going to be the Michaelis constant. What does this Michaelis constant actually talks about? That's very important. Michaelis constant is the one which tells you what is the frequency, or we can say it just represents how was the binding affinity. So we already know enzyme and substrate actually binds with each other. So Km value will tell you what is the binding affinity of this enzyme and substrate. How do they bind? What is the efficacy? Like that we can say. And very important you have to remember is Km value. If the Km value is more, which means the binding capacity of enzyme and substrate is going to be very less. So you have to remember, if the Km value is more, then the enzyme and the substrate binding capacity is less. E plus S binding capacity is less. If the Km value is going to be less, then the binding capacity of E and S, the enzyme and the substrate, is more. Let's see the last option. The question is, which of the following are true with regard to Km value except one, which means they ask you to find out the wrong statement. As a numerical value of Km is more. So listen, Km is more means the affinity of enzyme and the substrate binding should be less, which means they are inversely proportional. But they have given both will increase simultaneously, which is the wrong statement. And Km will not depend upon how much is the enzyme concentration. They will not depend upon. They are independent. That's a correct statement. And mostly all the 50% of the molecules of enzymes are bound to the substrate. Km is defined as the substrate concentration, which is half maximum, 1 by V max. Yes. So this is also correct. So last one is going to be wrong. Okay, the next question. Biodiversity Act of India was passed by the Parliament in which year? Okay, it is in 2002. So answer is option D. Okay, yes. So it is 2002. Okay, next we'll see the rest of the question. Okay, which of the following plant is used as a biofertilizer? Very important. Nostoc, Finaria, and then Volvox, and then there's going to be Rhizopus. Okay, you have to remember which one of these things. Okay, listen. So Nostoc is the one which is actually used as a biofertilizer. Funaria, we already know it's going to be a bryophytes, Volvox is going to be an algae, and Rhizopus is going to be a fungi, right? Yes. So Nostoc is the one which is used as a biofertilizer. The next question, which one thing is not true about antibiotics? Okay, so we know that antibiotic was actually coined by a person called Wakesman and 1942, and the first antibiotic is penicillin, and it was discovered by Alexander Fleming. So the first two options are correct, but we have to find out which is going to be not correct. So we have to find out which is not correct. So each, and let's see the last option. Many people, if you give some kind of antibiotic, they are allergic. So they will not take some amount of antibiotic. That's why the doctor tells you after 2 to 3 days, we would like to come back and see if the fever is there or not, in order to check whether that works for you or not. So some person becomes allergic to very particular antibiotic. This is also correct. But we cannot say for some people they would give for one infection. For the same medicine will be given for another person for another infection also. It's not going to be restricted to only one type of infection. So each antibiotic is effective only against one particular type of pathogen. This is a wrong statement. So you have to choose this statement. Okay, yes. Select the false statement for an enzyme producing a chemical reaction. We have to find out the false statement. So first we will see the correct statement. So enzymes are the one which catalyze the rate of the reaction by reducing the activation energy. We know activation energy is nothing but how much minimum amount of energy is required to bind with minimum amount of energy required by the substrate to bind with the enzyme. So suppose let's take there are going to be many substrates present. So substrate is going to have an energy of, let's take like this. So let's take, there's going to be a substrate, and this is substrate has 3 kilocalories. And there's going to be another substrate which has 4, another substrate 5, another substrate 6, another substrate 7 kilocalories. So suppose the activation energy is going to be 3, or let's take it's going to be 5, which means what exactly happens is if it is 5, all the enzyme substrate which has lower than 5, which means this substrate, this substrate, this substrate. So the minimum amount of activation energy required by the substrate. So only these three things will combine with enzyme. That is going to be the activation energy. So enzymes, if the enzyme is present, they will lower the activation energy by reducing to 3. So all the substrate which has less than 3 will bind to the enzyme. So this is a correct statement, yes. So the next statement, causing the release of heat which act as a primer. No, they would not be releasing heat if an enzyme is actually present, right? Yes. So increases molecular motion. No, they will not increase any kind of molecular motion, and they will not change the Gibbs-free energy. If you're comparing a Gibbs-free energy of a substrate and a product, they will not change it. So which one of the statements are wrong, they asked, right? So false statement they asked. So second option is also wrong, third option is also wrong, fourth option is also wrong. So answer is going to be option C. The next question, the common nitrogen fixer in paddy field is given. Very important is paddy field. In a paddy field, which one is going to be involving? Azospirillum is going to be the nitrogen fixer. Okay, yes. In order to obtain a virus-free plants, through tissue culture. In a tissue culture, if you want to have a plant which is away from all this virus infection, they will always take a meristem culture. Why do they take a meristem culture? Because meristems are the one which keeps on dividing. So those kind of cell will not be having much of chance of having this viral infections in plants. So that is going to be meristems. Okay, we will not use any kind of protoplasmic fusion or embryo. We will not, embryo culture will not do, and anther culture also will not do. Rennet is purified by C. Hansen for commercial use. First, we have to understand what is this rennet. So rennet is the one when you add in milk, they are helpful for coagulation, right? Yes, they just form a kind of clumps over there. So this enzyme, where it is isolated from, it is actually isolated from the stomach of calf. Okay, yes. So answer is going to be option C. The next question, Zwitter ion is asked. What is Zwitter ion? Which means they're going to be neutral. They have both the amine group also, the acidic group also. So the correct out of all these three structures, the B structure is going to be the correct one. Right? Yes. So this is going to be correct. So the answer for this question is option C, because B is going to be the Zwitter ion. Okay, the next question, restriction endonucleases are enzymes which makes. So you have to remember endonucleases is given. So here itself, it gives you an idea. It is going to be inside the DNA. Endo means inside. So nucleases are the one which breaks DNA or any nucleic acid. So suppose there's going to be a DNA. So they are going to break in between the DNA or inside the DNA, not in the corners. Suppose if there's going to be a DNA, suppose AT, GC, AA. Suppose if there are enzyme which cuts at the end of the DNA, then we call it exonucleases. Okay. And if they are going to cut in the middle portion, then we call it endonuclease. What is this restriction endonuclease? Restriction endonucleases will cut only at a specific site. Suppose if, let's take EcoR1 as an example, HIN3 as an example. All these enzymes cut at a specific sequence, especially inside the DNA. So it makes a specific positions within the DNA molecule. So our answer is going to be option A. Okay. The sex factor in bacteria is, when we were talking about conjugation, I hope everybody has studied this one. So in conjugation, what happens? There's going to be F plasmids, which is the F factor, which is responsible for determining the sex. So it's going to be F replicons. So answer is going to be option B. Okay, the next question. The animals or organism floating on the surface of the water, they asked. Okay, so if they are on the surface, what is it going to be? First, we have to understand in water, what are the things that are actually present. Okay, yes. So the above surface, ultimately there's going to be, suppose let's take this is a water body. And here above, there would be planktons which usually floats. Okay, let's take this is going to be water. So the planktons actually floats over here. So answer is planktons because they float on the surface of water. And the next is going to be neritic. So this area is going to be neritic region. And below this, there's going to be pelagic. Pelagic are not very deep area in the ocean. Only benthos are going to be very, very deep. There are some fishes which lives in the very deep side of the oceans. Okay, yes, but the question is animals which lives on the surface of the water. So it's going to be planktons. Okay, read the following four statements and accordingly mark the statement that has correct statements. First, we will see a cardiac fibers are branched. Yes, cardiac fibers are actually branched and they have one or more nuclei. So this is a correct statement. Smooth muscles are unbranched and cylindrical. No, smooth muscles are not unbranched. Skeletal muscles are unbranched and cylindrical. So this is a wrong statement. We cannot choose this. Striated muscles can be branched. Yes, when there's going to be striated muscle, they can be branched or unbranched. Involuntary muscles are non-striated. Just now we saw over here. Cardiac muscles are actually striated, which means they are involuntary muscles, which are not under our control. So this is going to be a wrong statement. So 1 and 3 are going to be the correct statement. So you can see option D is the correct statement. Let's see the next question. Spleen is referred to as, very simple, it is the graveyard of RBC. Okay, yes. So given below are four matchings of animal and its kind of respiratory organ is given. Silverfishes has trachea, scorpion has book lungs, sea squid has pharyngeal gills, but dolphin has nostrils. They do not have skin for its respiration. So we can say which one of the four are correct? All the first four are correct. So 1, 2 and 3 are correct. Not the fourth one. First 3 are correct. Okay, in the mouth part of the cockroach, the organ which is responsible for grinding. Okay, first you have to understand what are the structures that is present in a cockroaches. Okay, the first is going to be labium. So first there will be labium, and then there would be labrum. Let me write it here. There would be labrum, and then there would be mandibles. This side there will be mandibles. Here also mandible, and there would be maxilla here. Maxilla is the one which actually pulls the food and holds the food. So they hold the food maxilla, and mandibles grind the food. So they put the foods over here and they will hold the food and they will come and bite it. And this is going to be hypopharynx, which is present in the middle. So mandibles are responsible for grinding. So answer is option C. Okay, the next question. Which of the following characters is not the typical characteristics of mammals? We all come under chordates. Pecodons means all the teeth are embedded in the socket. So we have all the teeth embedded. So that's a correct one. But they ask which is not the typical characters, right? Yes. So alveolar lung, yes, we have lungs and we have alveoli. So that is correct. We have 12 pairs of cranial nerves, not 10 pairs. So this is a wrong statement. So I'm choosing it. Yes, 7 cranial vertebrae are present, correct. Parthenogenesis. So natural parthenogenesis, which means the young ones are formed without the fertilization. Suppose if we're talking about worker bees are the one which are sterile, right? Yes. And that is going to be natural parthenogenesis you will see in honeybees. Okay, the next question. Consider the statement given below regarding the contraception and answer is directed thereafter. Okay, yes. So, medical termination of pregnancy. Yes, if the pregnancy termination has to be done during first semester, which means 12 weeks is very safe. So, this is a correct statement. We have to answer the correct statements only, which are correct they asked. Okay, yes. So, this is a correct statement. Yes, this is a correct statement. First is a correct statement. Right? Yes. So, this is a correct statement. First is a correct statement, right? Yes. So let's mark the first statement is correct. Yes. So generally chances of contraceptions are nil until mother breastfeeds the infants up to 2 years. It's not up to 2 years. It is actually up to 2 weeks we can say this. So this is a wrong statement or 6 months also we can say. Intrauterine devices like copper tree is actually placed in a female reproductive system, right? Yes. And what exactly happens is, so the copper T usually releases something called as copper, and copper is not good because whenever a sperm comes, right, they will when a copper is present, they will reduce the speed motility of the sperm and they will reduce the activity of the sperm. That's why it is used as a contraceptive. So this is a correct statement. Yes. Contraceptive pills may be taken up to 1 week after coitus. They can take even for 72 hours also after unprotected sex. Okay, yes, so this is going to be a wrong statement. So first statement and third statement are correct. Okay, let's see the next one. So we have to identify A and D. Before going for the option B, we can easily answer this question. Okay, yes, listen. So you have to remember very important thing. Suppose if we are talking about a normal artery or an artery which we used to call it systemic arteries. And arteries are the one which carries oxygenated blood. And veins are the one which carries deoxygenated blood. So they carry deoxygenated. So I'm writing carbon dioxide blood. Okay, yes. This is going to be contradictory in case of lungs. In lungs, there's going to be pulmonary veins. Very important, you have to remember. There's going to be pulmonary veins. So pulmonary arteries are the one, just opposite you'll be seeing. Arteries are the one, pulmonary arteries are the one which carries deoxygenated blood, which means carbon dioxide. Okay. Pulmonary veins are the one which carries oxygenated blood. Oxygenated blood. Okay, let's see over here. There's a heart, and then this is a tissue. So this is a tissue, and tissue is going to give carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide means deoxygenated blood is coming from here. So deoxygenated blood is actually carried by to the heart by a vein, not by a artery. Yes, because systemic veins are the one which carries deoxygenated blood. So this is going to be systemic vein. A is going to be systemic vein. And now it reaches the heart. And now from the heart, the deoxygenated blood is going to the lung for purification, for oxygenation. So the carbon dioxide, deoxygenated blood is carried by what? Pulmonary arteries. So this is going to be pulmonary artery. And then the lung purifies it and it brings as oxygenated blood. So oxygenated blood is carried by from the lungs by veins. So pulmonary veins carries the oxygenated blood. And then it comes over here, and then arteries are the one which carries the oxygenated blood to the entire part of the body. So A is going to be the systemic vein, B is pulmonary artery, C is pulmonary vein, and D is systemic arteries. Okay, let's see the option for now. So the answer is going to be yes, systemic vein, pulmonary vein, and systemic artery. Very simple question. Okay, the next question. Which of the following pathway the male reproductive system, the sperm actually moves? Yes, it actually moves from epididymis only. It's not from vasa efferentia and deferens. It goes from epididymis and then to vas deferens. So vas deferens to epidermis ultimately wrong. So epididymis to vas deferens and urethra. This is a correct statement. Okay, yes. The next question is, the second maturation division of the mammalian ovum occurs. Okay, First, we have to understand oogenesis. What's oogenesis? Oogenesis is the process where we are actually seeing the formation of ovum. Okay, so what exactly happened? The maturation actually takes place first. So in the first time, what exactly happens is the primary oocyte will be formed, and then there would be formation of the polar body. And then what exactly happened? This primary oocyte change into a secondary oocyte, and there would be the division will be altered in the metaphases. Okay, yes. So the second maturation will take place only when the sperm enters. Only when the sperm enters, then only the second maturation will take place. So the second maturation division of the mammalian ovum occurs until after the ovum has been penetrated by the sperm, or we can say when the sperm enters or when it penetrates, then only the second maturation will take place. Okay. A force acting against achievement of highest possible level of population growth. Okay, we can say the survival of the fittest. So the environment is going to give you a lot of impact, like no shelter, no food, no time, temperature, nothing is going to be present. But if we are able to act against it, then it is fine. So any force that act against having a high population. So what exactly happens if there is less temperature? Animals which bears normal temperature cannot live, so they die. So what are they doing? The one which does not let them to live, or do not let high population level, okay, that is going to be the environmental resistance. They are resisting the animals to grow or the population to grow. That is environmental resistance. Okay, the next one, the phase of menstrual cycle. Okay, it lasts for 7 to 8 days. Very simple, follicular phase. The follicles has to be formed. Maturation of the follicles has to be formed, and then there would be ovulation phase, and then there would be luteal phase. All these things. And then what type of human population is represented by the following age pyramids? You can see post reproductive means old people are more here, and the adult people are less here, no, not even there, and babies are less here, which means these people will die. So what happened to the next generation? There will not be generations at all. So it's going to be a declining population. The population actually declines. Okay, the next question, a mule. So answer is going to be this one. Okay, let's write this. Okay, this is going to be the correct statement. Okay. A mule is the result of which of these things? Inbreeding, you already know. Inbreeding is going to be between species which has the same ancestors. Outbreeding is going away from the, they do not have a common ancestor. Cross between is between different species. And interspecific hybridization. Interspecific hybridization, mule is just, we can, if we have to talk about mule very detailedly, so mule is actually formed. Let me write it over here. So mule is the male donkey. The hybrid is actually formed between a male donkey. Mule is actually formed between a male donkey and a female horse. Female horse. So they are interspecific hybridization. Okay. And there's something else called as hemi. Hemi is just the reverse of it. So the female donkey and the male horse. That is hemi. Okay, they are also going to be interspecific ones. Okay, they are sterile. Okay, so they are interspecific hybridization. Okay, the next question, hemophilia. Hemophilia is going to be X-linked recessive disorder. Yes, so which means it affects all the male individuals, because male has only X and Y. Okay, so male has X and Y and female has X and X. So if one gene is getting, if one X chromosome is getting faulty, they would be affected. But if one is going to be present over there, they would be a carrier. They would be transmitting to the next generation. Hemophilia is going to be the royal disorder or royal disease, or we can say bleeders diseases. It is mainly because there are hemophilia 1 and hemophilia 2, which means the clotting factors are not able to be produced. Here in case of hemophilia 1, the clotting factor is 8 is not produced, clotting factor 9 is not produced in hemophilia. So they are X-linked recessive disorder. So the recessive trait is carried by the X chromosomes. So which is option B. The next question, The theory of inheritance of acquired characters was given by which of these people? Okay. So what Lamarck said is, he said the elephant's necks are actually larger. Previously, the elephant, I'm sorry, not the elephant, giraffe. The giraffe's necks were taller. He said that the giraffe's necks were taller because the tree was literally high. So when they want to eat the leaves, they were literally moving their head. So he thought that it is an acquired character. So what he thought is the same acquired character is passing on from the next generation, one generation to another generation. So he was talking about the theory of inheriting the acquired character in order to reach the higher levels of a tree. So that is mainly based on Lamarck. So it's Lamarck's theory. The animal husbandry means you're growing the domestic animals, fishes, honeybees, apiculture, all these things, sericulture, all these things, piscicultures. So it is going to be all of these things. Inland means freshwater. Inland fishery means culturing fish in freshwater. Sphincter of Oddi. Okay, first we have to understand all the ducts which is actually present, right? Yes. So we will understand what are the ducts that are actually present. Okay. Yes. So suppose there's going to be a gallbladder. This is a gallbladder and this is going to be the liver. Okay. And this liver is the one which produces bile. Please don't forget, liver produces bile. But gallbladder is the one which stores the liver, stores the bile. So what exactly happened? Here there's going to be a duct which brings the bile. So from here, the gallbladder, so this is the gallbladder. So the gallbladder stores the bile and this is actually carried. And the liver also brings the bile. So here, this is going to be hepatic duct because it's from a liver. So we used to call it hepatic duct. And the duct which is coming from the gallbladder is called cystic duct. And these two ducts come and joins together. And this is called as common bile duct. Bile duct. And now there's going to be a pancreas which is actually present here. And the pancreas also has a duct. And this is called pancreatic duct. Very important. This is called as pancreatic duct. And this common bile duct and this pancreatic duct fuse together and they make another duct. And this duct is called as hepatopancreatic duct. Hepatopancreatic duct. Okay. The sphincter of Oddi. What are the things that would be coming? The bile is actually coming from here. Pancreatic juices are also coming here. So there's going to be a sphincter which will control the flow of this digestive juices and bile. And that sphincter is actually present here. That is going to be sphincter of Oddi. Where it is present? It is present in the hepatopancreatic duct. So answer is going to be option B. Okay. So the next question, which two ducts are responsible for the formation of duct that carry bile from the gallbladder and conducted to the first section of the small intestine, which means duodenum. So the hepatopancreatic duct are the one which connects to the small intestine. So that is last. So common bile duct is the one which carries the bile from the gallbladder. So it's going to be B. Okay, the pacemaker of heart. Okay, so conduction of the heart is actually carried out by SA node, AV node, to bundle of hairs, Purkinje fibers, all these things. So if there's a problem with the conduction, they will always introduce this SA node. So which is a pacemaker. Urico. So urico means you have to remember uric acids. Okay, we know that ammonia is highly toxic. So ammonia needs a lot of water to be eliminated. So a lot of aquatic animals only eliminate ammonia. Those animals which excrete ammonia are called ammonotelic animals and the process is called ammonotelism. And we human beings are ureotelic. Please don't get confused with ureotelic and uricotelic. So this is going to be ureotelic. So this is going to be ureotelic. Ureotelic means they release urea. Uricotelic means they release uric acids. So uric acid need very less amount of water to be excreted. So birds, if you see, they would be having pellets. Some reptiles has a very thick excreta. Insects, some insects has thick excreta. So answer is going to be option C. Okay, the next question. So a large portion of oxygen is left unused in the human blood even after taking it in the tissues. All the tissues takes all the oxygen because every tissue or every cell has to perform aerobic respiration. Suppose that some amount of oxygen is left. that will be used as a reserve material. Whenever you do exercise, that oxygen will be utilized. Suppose if there is no oxygen, what exactly happens? The oxygen is actually stored for a long period of time. Suppose if oxygen is not present, then fermentation will take place, which is lactic acid fermentation. If a lactic acid fermentation takes place, muscle fatigue will take place. So oxygen has to be reservedly stored in our body. Whenever you do exercises, it will be used for it. Okay, yes. So this is going to be option A. The next question, the basic functional unit of kidney is what? Nephrons. You have to remember nephrons are the one. There are cortical nephrons, juxtamedullary nephrons, all these things. Urea from the blood can be removed by which of these things? First, you have to understand diuresis. Diuresis is a process or it's a condition or a disorder. What exactly happens is the kidney filters lot of body fluids. If they filter lot of body fluids, all the body fluids will be released in the urine. So these people will be keep on urinating. So urea is not removed from them. The water content, everything is actually removed. Uremia is a condition where what happens is the kidney is not able to filter the body fluids, we can say. And dialysis is the process when the blood urea has not been removed, then it is going to be dialysis. Micturition is the action of urination. Okay, that is micturition. Okay, what prevents the molecule with a molecular mass or molecular weight greater than 68,000 passing from the glomerulus capillaries to Bowman's capsule? Okay, yes. So what happens? Suppose if we are talking about the Bowman's capsule, so there's going to be the basement membrane. We already know there's going to be a basement membrane here, and that is going to be the epithelial cells. And they have lot of podocytes here. And between that, there's going to be filter slits. And suppose if any fluid molecules come, which is suppose if it's 68,000, the molecule size is more. So they cannot come through this basement membrane of the epithelial cells of the Bowman capsule through the slits, right? Yes, so that's why they are not able to. So what makes them prevent? The basement membrane of the epithelial cells of the Bowman's capsule. So that was the one which is not able to fit over here. So answer is going to be option A. Okay, the nerve center which controls the body temperature. Yes, the body temperature is actually controlled by hypothalamus, and even eating is also controlled by hypothalamus. Okay, the rods and the cones that are present in the eye are modified multipolar or bipolar or unipolar, or none of these. Bipolar is the one which has one axons and one dendrites. So rods and cones are bipolar. Okay, suppose if a person who is suffering, next question 166. Suppose if a person is suffering from a pituitary tumor. Okay, so what exactly happens is pituitary, the anterior part of the pituitary or posterior part of the pituitary is very, very important. They are the one which sends many hormones. So if a pituitary is damaged, what would have happened? Those kind of people will be having polyuria. They used to urinate more. Why? Because what happened? Pituitary is the one which stimulates the ADH. Okay, ADH is nothing but the anti-diuretic hormone. So anti-diuretic hormone we studied in excretory chapter. So ADH is actually present, will be released in the collecting tube of the excretory nephrons. Okay, and what exactly happens? This ADH, this is the ADH, and they are responsible for reabsorbing water. Suppose if the pituitary is affected, they would not be able to send the ADH to the collecting duct. If ADH is not produced, then the aquaporins will not be produced. If aquaporins are not produced, then water would not be reabsorbed. Right? Yes. So answer is going to be option D. Follicle stimulating hormone has nothing to do with here, and melanin stimulating hormones also nothing to do. Aldosterone is mainly responsible for sodium absorption. Okay, if a person is feeling fatigue after doing a lot of exercise, why? Because what happened? All the oxygen will be used by every cell, and now there is no oxygen, so it undergoes lactic acid fermentation. So the accumulation of lactic acid will be more. The next question, in the given diagram of skull, what does eye represents? Okay, first you have to remember this area, right? This is going to be the, let me write it here. So this is going to be the frontal, this is going to be the frontal bone, and this is going to be the parietal ones. Two are going to be parietal, right on the right side as well as on the left side. This is occipital, and this is temporal, and this is sphenoids. Okay, yes. So the answer for this question is temporal bone. This is temporal bones. Okay. The external gills, trachea, and lungs all share which of the sets of character? The main role of gills or trachea or lung is to exchange gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide, and ultimately they increases the surface area for exchange of gases. So it's going to be option A. Let's see the rest of the options also. Okay, used by water breathers. No, it's not only used by the water breathers, right? It's used by everybody. It exchanges only oxygen. No, they also exchange carbon dioxide. It is not only found in insects, it is present everywhere. Which one of the following does not act as a neurotransmitter? Neurotransmitter is the one which are actually transmitted through the neurons. Epinephrine is otherwise, you have to remember, epinephrine is otherwise called as adrenalins. Norepinephrines are called as noradrenalins. Adrenalins are actually secreted only when you're feeling stressful. Norepinephrine or noradrenaline are released every time. Okay, and what's the role of this cortisons? Cortisons are not going to be a neurotransmitter. They are the one which is given as a tablet when a person is having any kind of anxiety or anger, all these things. Acetyl CoA is also going to be a neurotransmitter, which is a secondary messenger. So 1, 2, option B and D are neurotransmitter. Cortisons are not going to be a neurotransmitter. Right? Yes. So which of the following statement is correct? So neurons are the one which control endocrine. Yes. Not the endocrines which controls neurons. So answer is going to be option A. Cloning. Why do we do cloning? Suppose let's take an example. There's a sheep, and the sheep is having a very good amount of meat, and they have a very good amount of wool. So what is the one which gives the wool? The gene. The gene are expressed as proteins, which ultimately you're seeing it as a phenotype, which is going to be the wool content or the milk content or the meat content. So what are we doing in cloning? If I want the young offsprings to be of the same characteristics, I'm going to preserve the genotype. Yes, the genetic makeup, I'm going to preserve it. So preserving the genotype of an organism. Okay, the next very important question. A cell-coded protein formed in response to infection with most animal viruses. Okay, let's take this one and understand. Okay, suppose let's consider there are going to be two cells. This is one cell, this is another cell. So now what exactly happened? The virus is invading here. So let's make it a kind of bit. Let me draw it here. So this is one cell and this is another cell. This is a neighboring cell. Okay, now the virus is entered into the one cell. So as the virus is entered, I'm making a star as viruses. So what exactly happened? Virus has increased in number. Now this virus will try to get inside this neighboring cells. Whatever the cells which are present, they try to go over there because they are large in number. Now what exactly our body do is, they also has some defense mechanism. So as soon as this virus entered into a body, inside the nucleus, especially inside the DNA, there's going to be interferon gene, which we call it INF genes. And this INF gene is activated. So what exactly happened? This gene is converted into interferon proteins. Very important, you have to remember. Genes are getting transcribed as RNA and then they are expressing as protein. And now this interferon, let me give blue color as an interferon. Now the interferons are produced here. So now what exactly happened? The interferons comes out of this one and there's going to be an interferon receptor present in the neighboring cell. And this interferon comes and binds to it. As the interferon comes and binds to the interferon receptor, if this cell also has nucleus, and they will stimulate the nucleus to produce antiviral proteins. And this antiviral protein kills all these viruses. So the virus is not able to enter inside them, or even if it is entered also, the antivirus kills them. Okay, so which of the following is used in response to the infections with response to animal viruses? So it is interferons. Okay, which one of the following is not used in organic farming? Glomus is a fungus, oscillatoria, earthworm are all used, but snails are not used for organic farming. ELISA is a technique which is used to detect the presence of any kind of viruses, where we use an enzyme because it's an enzyme linked immunosorbent assay, and that enzyme is going to be alkaline phosphatases. Okay, yes. The next one, Propionibacterium shermani. Propionibacterium shermani is the one which produces Swiss sheets. So they have asked which bacterium helps in production of switch seeds, which is Propionibacterium shermani. What is this Trichoderma polysporum? And this Trichoderma polysporum is the one which produces something called as cyclosporins. I hope everybody remembers this. Cyclosporins are the one which is actually given for heart problems. So they produce cyclosporins. And Saccharomyces cerevisiae are the one which produces what? Alcohol, bread, all this thing. Aspergillus niger produces citric acids. So the next question, which of the following pair is not correctly matched? Okay, dengue fever. Yes, dengue is actually caused by arboviruses. And then plague is caused by Yersinia pestis. Okay, sleeping sickness is also caused by Trypanosoma gambians. Yes, that is also correct. Syphilis is not caused by Trichuris trichura. Okay, it is actually caused by Trypanoma pallidum. Yes, so it is going to be Trypanoma pallidum. Let me write it. It's palladium. So this is a wrong statement. So answer is going to be option C. Okay, the next question. Which of the following depresses the brain activity and produce feeling of calmness and relaxation and drowsiness? Very important one. Okay. So suppose if you are talking about this Valium. Okay. So Valium is going to be the answer for this. What is this Valium? What is it used for? Let me just undo it. So Valium is going to be the answer. It just depresses the brain activity and gives calmness to people. Okay. So it is actually given in the name of diazepam. Okay. They give a tablet called diazepam. So okay, let me write it here. So it's going to be diazepam. And this is usually given to people who have this anxiety and people who have alcohol problems. If they consume a lot of alcohol, they will give this Valium. What about this morphines? Morphines are going to be painkillers. Okay, they're actually painkillers. Amphetamines are the one. Suppose if people who do not have the cognitive ability, so they are not intelligent. So what they will do, they try to give this amphetamines to improve the cognitive ability. And people who have this deficiency, something called as ADHD. So ADHD is nothing but the attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So people, many kids used to have this problem. They would be like not very much active, but they would not be listening to you. They won't be paying any kind of attention. That kind of people we used to give amphetamines. And Hershey's is actually used as a hallucination. Okay, yes. So the answer is very simple, which is option B. Okay, which one of the following is correctly matched pair of the given secretion and its primary role? Okay, we know that. I think I missed one question, right? Yes. Okay, which one of the following is correctly matched pair of the given secretion and its primary role in human being? Sebum. Sebum is not mainly for sexual attraction. Sebum is the one which lubricates the skin and it also protects you from any kind of frictions. It's not for sexual attraction. Sweat is of course going to be thermoregulation. So this is a correct statement. They asked only correct statement. Saliva is not only tasting food, we can say. Saliva is not for tasting. Tongue is the one which is mainly responsible for tasting. And saliva maintains the oral health. It actually gives protection for the hard tissues and soft tissues and all these things. Tears are the one which removes the dirt, dust, and it actually protects your eye from dehydrations. So all the rest of the options are wrong except option B. Okay, the next question. Consider the following four statement and select the option which includes all the correct ones only. Okay, yes, single cell spirulina produces large amount of proteins. Yes, this is a correct statement. The body weight wise, the microorganism Methylophilus methylotrophus may be able to produce more proteins than the cows per day. Yes, it is also going to be a correct statement. A common button mushrooms are as very rich source of vitamin C is given. No, they are not a high source of vitamin C. They are actually high source of vitamin B. Actually, it is high source of vitamin B as well as it's a high source of potassium. So we can say it is only B and potassium. So they have given wrongly. A rice variety has been developed which is rich in calcium. No, it is a rice, golden rice has been developed which is rich in vitamins only, vitamin A only. So this is also going to be a wrong statement. What's the question? They asked the correct one. So it's option 1 and 2. So statement 1 and 2, which is it going to be? So last statement, it's going to be option D. Yes. So we have done with all the questions given for the All India mock test number 4. I hope everybody understood every question. Thank you for joining, all of you. Do well. All the best to you. Yes. Thank you, all of you.